So, hello, everybody. This is Dailey from Heart Reiki. And today we're here to speak with Karen Shook, a beautiful award winning musician, about music and life and authenticity and just being who you are. I love Karen. Karen and I have known each other for a minute. And I feel like we've both spent a lot of time sitting on the blacktop talking about our kids and about all kinds of things, all of the subjects, you name it. I feel like we've touched into it and had a lot of fun over the years. And so, Karen, I'm really happy to welcome you here today.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah. Hi.
Good to see you.
You too. So, I've been having this really fun time just listening to your music on Facebook since COVID started. I mean, I've heard you perform live. You're amazing and I love the game that you bring. And I
Thank
think
you.
it's been this like amazing fun thing to discover that I could just go on Facebook and that you have been keeping your greater audience connected that way. Has it been weird?
It's been so weird, but you know what? It's kind of cool. And looking at the bright side of the quarantine and everything, I never wanted to do Facebook Lives, and I've had people in the past ask me like, "You should do this." I'm like, but now it's like I look forward to it, and like I know I told you earlier, I get a little more nervous on Facebook Live than I would in a live setting. It's just I don't know why. One of my sons, when I was talking about it with him, he said, "Well, maybe, but you don't know who's going to watch it." I'm like, "That's a good point. You have no
Right.
idea." But just
Totally.
energetically, it's like the unknown, but no, it's cool. And I'm grateful for um, it's like, it's so accessible. So
Yeah.
grateful for that. And I think it helps me to feel more comfortable in making mistakes because it's live.
Yeah.
And then, I'll record a song that maybe I don't know that well. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch it, but but yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I
it is
just
good.
told you too that like I saw you on live one day and you were playing a song and you were kind of pausing and saying, "Oh, that's right, I changed this," or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I still fell in love with the song. I was like, I love that song. Like it really spoke to where I was at. There's something about just connecting as people. So for people who don't really know you here, can you tell us what kind of music you play? And I know that you're also a songwriter. Can you just share with us a little bit about like your journey or what that's all about?
Yeah, I like it's interesting. As far as the kind of music the first thing I guess I tell people, like I would say, is Americana blues, kinda. Um, a little bit of twang. I lived in Oklahoma when I was 2, and I feel like when I get in front of a microphone, I get some twang in there. But
Yeah.
I'm the second of 11 kids, and my mom and dad were both ordained ministers. And so there was a lot of music. It was like a rockin' church band with drums and bass and tambourines and dancing. And so, like,
Wow.
that music was kind of blues based. And my dad played kind of like blues based stuff at church. And I like yoga now, just for the record. I'm not going to like evangelize or anything. But, anyways, so yeah, so a lot of it, like, a lot of like church influence. And um, I feel like I started writing when I was like really young. I was
Mm.
insanely shy to the point of like having a hard time making eye contact. And my mom encouraged me when I was younger and actually kind of like pushed me. Like I was thinking about it today, like must have been like 4 or 5, and it was Christmas time. And I was with my family, and we were at a nursing home, and we were going to do Christmas songs, and I did not want to sing in front of people, and my mom kind of like yelled at me a little bit, like sternly,
Wow.
like, "You will not be selfish with your talent, you will go out there and you will sing for these people." And I'm like crying. And
Wow.
it's kind
Yeah.
of weird, because as a parent, you like, I look now like at my son who doesn't really want to stick with his drum lessons, but I'm like, this is a good thing, you should do this. But I wouldn't think of like, you will not be. But
Yeah.
it seemed kind of stern. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know if I would have this in my life right now, this thing that I love so much that it like brings me so much joy, and I feel is a way to connect to people. If I didn't do that, and I think when I was that young was when I started writing. And now,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if you've ever done The Artist's Way or like read the book The Artist's Way.
I love that book.
Freaking
Hands
love
down.
it.
Every artist should read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. She's amazing.
Yeah.
I've heard her in interviews and she's also just a really fascinating woman.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like it gives me the good chills just like just like saying that out loud. I'll still go back and revisit that, but I do that now, like daily practice of writing, whereas, it could just be whatever,
Right.
you're writing, but a lot of times I'll go back and just like intuitively go to a journal. Like that's one thing that I've kept for years, is just like
Right.
bins of notebooks and like papers and things like that, but then intuitively go back and like open up a journal and having a melody and just being like, oh, the words are all here that I wrote down like
Mm,
4 years ago or something like that, which is pretty cool. So I know some people who write songs like have this different method of really like being more structured and
right.
methodical about it, and doing these practices, but I'm like, fuck it, it's more just like channeling,
Yeah.
really. and
Yeah.
then and then like sticking with it and like having like the right brain chemistry to be in a
Yeah.
place to sit down and like focus on it, which is, I guess, like part of the challenge of life in
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you said something there I want to go back to that I think is just so powerful. Like that image of your mother shouting at you and saying, you will not be selfish with your gifts.
general.
I think for me as an energy healer and it just a woman, it highlights the fact that so often in our culture, we do feel kind of shy about sharing creatively the things we do. Like there's a lot of fear that we're going to be found to be less than, or like that the things that we create really aren't worth it. And I don't really think it's a common thought that no, like they're gifts, that your art, whether that's a physical craft or it's music, speaking, like those are actual gifts and that they need to be shared with people. Otherwise, those people suffer. They
Yeah.
suffer,
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh. Oh yeah. Oh, I know the suffering. Oh yeah,
Right?
for sure. Yeah, for like years of, um, working in restaurants, and I had, for a while taught group fitness classes, and that was like what I used as kind of an excuse outlet, but it wasn't
Yeah.
really like the thing that really, I mean, that I truly like craved like so deeply, like deep, inside,
Yeah.
like internally, my soul was just like screaming for it.
Yeah.
And now I do feel, uh I get visited by anxiety pretty often as a human, but I do feel the most peaceful in my life that I ever have now,
Right.
because of the fact that I'm like so regularly able to express. And even if like,
Yeah.
if things shut down, because I'm in Illinois, and um there's the restrictions are different here than a lot of
Right.
other places. I know it's different for you guys too, but a lot,
Yeah.
like everything's, like you can't just hang out in bars here
Yeah.
in Illinois. But yeah, but that's why Facebook is good, and also I'm close to Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for
Yeah.
that. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
God for that. Whew,
Yeah. Yep. So
but yeah.
I think this is the thing. It's like for us as artists, we have to be able to express or we die. Like artists,
Yes.
you die. You like an artist does not belong in a job that's killing them. And I mean, there are some artists who will do like a day job. That's fine. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the suppression of the art,
Yeah.
but also that like, if we don't express, other people lose out, they die. Like they need, some people don't have the words for what they're feeling. And then they hear a song and they're transported, or they don't have the concepts. And then they receive, they look at a piece of art and suddenly they know things about their own heart that they just didn't know before. Right. So, like, I feel like even knowing you and the work that you've done and the songs you've played when we've been hanging out, or, like there's been just so much natural healing in the air because of that and in the
Mm.
spaces that we've been in. So, I know that you also do covers of music and they're fun covers. But have you ever felt really challenged, like, okay, your mom yelled at you, she gave you a kick in the butt, in the arse,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe like
Just
what I heard
dragging.
you saying is like that helped you to kind of say like, no, this
Oh
is
yeah.
an important thing. But have you ever just really struggled with like honoring the music that you create versus the covers that other people might want to hear? Like, how do you reconcile that as an artist? Like, what is that like?
That's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing for sure, especially, um it depends. I mean, like the places that I play out, some places really want to hear original music, and that makes it easier for me when I feel supported like that.
Yeah.
And I feel grateful for that. And right now I am in the process of recording. Tuesday night I'm going back to the studio to record, and it's without a doubt the most vulnerable experience as far as my musical life goes, because it's like, just like, okay, so like I'm taking this thing and I'm like, here it is, like, do you think this is okay? Do you like my baby? Do you think it's pretty? And it's, I mean, like I've compared it to like dropping your pants and spreading your butt cheeks open in front of like a crowd of people. Like, this is my vulnerability factor right now. So it's like exhilarating but also terrifying, and I do second guess myself a lot in the process. Like, my friend Jim, who is the upright bass player who I play with, um, he's recording with me, and I feel grateful because he's encouraging, and like he can see when I'm just like, oh God, is this even good? I think
Yeah.
that's common, I think, for artists to feel like that, kind of like tormented. But then at the same time in that process, it's like it keeps like the forward, and I don't think it has to be painful. Maybe that's just my process. 'Cause I'm kind of dramatic. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I got lost on a tangent there. Where was I going with that? We were talking about original music, like, versus
Yeah.
covers. It definitely feels safer to me to present covers,
Yeah.
because it's like, it's definitely a safer experience, and it's like, it feels like easier for me to connect to people, like, oh, they know this, and this is like something
Yeah.
that like triggers a memory. And but interestingly, at the same time, I've noticed, especially in the last few months being out playing, I'll play a song that most of the people have never heard before, that's an original song, and that
Yeah.
may be the song that got the best reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be like, "Oh, what was that?" And I'm like, "Oh, that makes me feel good. Okay, okay, it's good." So
Yeah.
it's the process of like continuing to like push myself out of that, which I guess I played solo most of the time. I was living in Sonoma County. I was playing by
Mm-hmm.
myself pretty much for about 5 years. And that made it easier for me to like hide a little bit more and not
Uh-huh.
like push into the discomfort. And now that I'm playing
Mm.
with this bass player who's like, let's play more of your originals. Hey, we should do like
Yeah.
at least like, this many per set. So now I'm like, okay, it's a good idea. I'll totally do that. All right, thanks.
That's really interesting though, because I wouldn't have thought that, right? I would have thought that you being able to just go out and playing solo and doing your thing, you would have more freedom. But I think it's
Oh
this
yeah.
reminder, like people push you, right? Like your friends, the people you care about, and
Oh
other
God.
musicians.
Yeah.
So you suddenly couldn't just pass off on
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
I have in the past been really exceptional at like ultra independence. So then
yeah.
that was like easy, just like, and I thought it was like so interesting reading about like ultra independence as a trauma response, which I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
okay,
Ultra
okay,
independence.
balance. I know. Cause it's like, on one
Hmm.
hand, I don't want to be like, like, I mean, I do, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's ways that we can kind of like get into this really so that we don't have to feel the vulnerability of what we're doing.
yeah.
I think as artists, that's huge. Now, I grew up in a musical family and an artistic family, and I had like a big artistic experience, I think, in my younger years. Um, and I feel like there are a lot of people in this group that are also artistic, some that really want to develop lifestyles where that's a central focus. And I feel like you're lucky that you're able to have that experience. Like you get to play music all the time. So can I ask you some questions about like
Yeah.
all around that? Because like,
Yeah.
whew, like, I remember being so young and wanting to do certain things and what that journey was like for me with the arts. But did like how how did you do that? Like I've met so many people that are like, I want to be a musician, so I'm going to move to LA and then get in front of a producer and hit it big. Did you ever go for that
Yeah.
experience? And like how had with looking back at your first aspirations and where you're at now, like what would you say about what it's like to be a professional musician?
That's such a good question. I love that so much, because I like, when I was younger, it was definitely like, I'm going to go to LA, and then I'm going to get in front of a big producer, and I'm going to like sing and dance. Um, and then like I fell in love with this boy, and I decided to move to Colorado. I was either going to go to Colorado with him or like go to LA. and
Mhm.
possibly live under a dumpster or something. I don't know. No, I wouldn't do that. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so I went to Colorado, and then I got pregnant when I was 19 and had my first son, and that was just like grounding, you know? And
Yeah.
so that took me on this other pathway. And it's really interesting because I said this again today. I don't think that I would, in the past, I've gone through periods of time struggling with being a mom and being responsible and wanting, yearning for like this lifestyle, but I'm just in my kitchen, like looking at my dishes and just like, ugh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so interestingly, like I feel like having my sons has given me the opportunity to be able to focus enough to do what I'm doing right now, but it looks different than maybe I thought it would, because
Yeah.
I mean, the way things are now and like the way that people are not having big events, it's just different right now anyways. But the thing in my mind was like, okay, I'm going to go to LA, and then, I'll record, and then it's like you see yourself touring, and it's like all this stuff, and it's like now I feel like I'm kind of like a blue collar musician in the sense
Mhm.
that, like, it's like I kind of like I grinded out a little bit, but I did go through years of thinking like I need a booking agent and I can't do this because my brain doesn't work like this, which I still do with some
Mm.
stuff. I'm holding
Mm.
on to certain things. I don't do
Yeah.
this. Okay. But so I did for many years depend on like having a guy like who was
Mm.
like, all right, so you're like my partner, and also if you could book the music and play the guitar, that's gonna work out best. But then that always ended badly because then there's these like power dynamics, and I'm like, what? You need to do all this shit, and why are you unhappy with me? So I did that model a lot too. My parents kind of
Yeah.
had a variation of that model, so that didn't work. Now I'm 44, and honestly, the greatest thing that happened was when I had to make money. When I moved out to California,
Mm.
that was probably like 6 or 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um, my husband at the time quit his job, and we moved out there, and it was his dream to live in Northern California. But I was like, yeah, I'll try. That sounds cool. Maybe I'll just like
Yeah.
play at some wineries. And up until that point, I'd always had the music in my life. I'd always gigged, but I never had, this is my full-time job. All my bills are being paid with this thing. And that was
Right.
always my ultimate goal, being like in the bathroom while I was waiting tables, washing my hands, looking at myself in the mirror, crying, being like, I
Yeah.
hate my life. I just want to
Mhm.
sing, and it's so hard,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
go out and you're just like, I'm fine, it's totally fine. But anyways, back to what I was saying.
I feel
So
you. Yeah.
and that's so hard. But so when we moved out there, I did get 2 jobs waiting tables.
Yeah.
And at one of the spots was at the Jaded Toad in Windsor. And they had
Nice.
music.
Yeah.
They had music Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights there. And 2 weeks after I started working there, the guy who played 3 nights a week, he was like their resident, went to LA to pursue his dreams of being a musician.
Mhm.
And then I asked the owner, like, is it cool if I do that music thing instead of the other thing? And then I started getting paid 3 nights a week. All of a sudden I had this 3 nights a week. And it was
Nice.
like, that was a solid start. And then it was just like, okay, I had the confidence to think like, I can actually do this. And also because I had to like actually feed my children
Yeah.
and be the one to pick them up during the day. So I feel like because of the way that my brain works, I could definitely have the ability to just smoke weed all day and just, not that I still do that sometimes, but just like eat like whole cakes and
Totally.
just like be so gluttonous and just like feel sorry for myself. I could be very excellent at that, but
Yeah.
because of like having my kids, it's like, oh shit, that's
Yeah.
probably not like a good thing for me to do, for them. So
Yeah.
um so I think like it really was like a combination of like desperation and necessity, and just
Yeah.
like, and like I really like that one of my brothers had me on his podcast about a year ago, and he was asking me and talking to me about resilience, and it's like,
Mm.
it's funny because like some people still say to me like, oh, maybe you'll make it. I'm like, no, I've made it. Okay,
Yeah.
I pay my bills. Like I like some, so like what does it mean to make it? Like, does it mean
Yeah.
like you have like, an airplane,
Yeah.
because like I'm not saying that's not attainable, but there's a difference like in like what your art is. So like now, because I go out and play cover songs in like these like venues that are not giant, and thank God they're open right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, like my heart breaks thinking about the people who like are doing these like bigger tours, and like now like all the sound guys have like no work. Like that's just, you know, so like it feels a little bit weird to me, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm playing here and there, and then it's like other people are like, all the tours are canceled for 2 years or who knows how long, you know. So like that's all weird.
I feel like that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at the same time, at the risk of sounding dramatic, I do feel like kind of like an essential worker, because I feel like I can see people, like people are feeling now in a way that I haven't seen before, like especially when things first reopened, like this past summer, like people crying. Whereas before, like you wouldn't see somebody, I mean, I would be crying in the car singing, but you know, like people would just be sitting there crying, you know, and be like, thank you so much. Like, I'm just like feeling so lonely right now.
Yeah, they need it. They need the music. They need the healing of the music. And gosh, there is so much there too. It's like you telling the story about just how, like now you can pay your bills and with music and knowing you, like remembering you hanging out with you at times, and you being booked in multiple places all over the area, you know, and like just doing this thing you love. That is a powerful place. And yet so many artists and like painters and musicians feel like, I feel like always have this ongoing story about one day I'm going to make it. And it's almost like the story is so strong that it's that paradigm of what the starving artist is about, that even when people are living it and living it for years, they still have this story about not having made it. And the musicians I've met who are the happiest are the ones who recognize that they've made it, whatever that means for them. Like I know musicians who are, you know, living full time off of what they do. I mean, getting paid to live and like doing full time what they do.
Yeah.
And they're just like so appreciative of that the love of that and the joy of that is actually what gives them more energy to continue to expand in different ways. And it's, we have, I think as humans, this idea that everything has to just go up and higher, linear, go, you know? And so there's this weird, like, you know, oh, in order to make it, that means I have to make more and more money, or I have to keep being known by more and more people. But the reality is, like, the troubadour, the musician, has historically been a person of the family, the tribe, who brings joy and channels spirit right there. Not for millions of people, but for people that are right there. And like musicians that are doing that in this country are the lifeblood of what the arts are really about. It's not the people with the big corporate contract who make a song and millions of people hear it and they get paid millions of dollars and they just make a song once a year. We need that too because of how we're structured. But like I think that I've realized more and more, because I tend to know a lot of musicians. I'm also realizing, you know, like musicians, Karen. But yeah, I've realized that like so many musicians, that there are so many successful, happy musicians who are feeding the people right there. And I think,
I love that.
Yeah, I don't know. And there's so many, and for anybody in this group who is a musician, who's not out there, like, remember Karen's mom, you know,
I tell you,
share like, your gifts with the world.
I think about that a lot. I mean, I really do. She's kind of rowdy, but I'm like, I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, she has 7 boys and like 4 girls. It's like, you kind of have to be kind of, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I love that though. The other thing is, the path that you just described is so unique. And I feel like I remember being young, going to LA, thinking I'm going to make it big. I don't even know what I wanted to make it big in. I had some different ideas. For a while it was costume design, and I did do costume design and I loved it. And I don't like, you're not going to find my name on some super big film anywhere, you know, and most of the theater pieces I did, they were big, they were important, but it's not like people keep playbills posted somewhere and look for costume designers, you know? But I
Right.
think that idea was so prevalent, like that there was a certain way to do it. And I remember being young and reading books, like if you want to do something in LA, this is how it's supposed to look.
Right.
And with rare exception, I've never met anybody for whom that was actually the story, you know? Like it
Yeah. I
actually, that's
mean,
not what the musical world looks like. It's not A, B, C, D, E, F, G, get your
right.
contract, and like it doesn't
Well,
work.
that was very, very scary to me. Probably, especially in my 30s, like being a stay-at-home mom and thinking like, like I'm getting older and like you
Mm.
people in the past, I don't feel like this now, but I felt like you get to a certain age and you're like expired, and I actually like not
I
that long
feel
ago I had another female musician say to me, well, I know it's hard for you because the kind of this is kind of a hater comment, but I already started, so I'm just going to go with it. She said, like because of the kind of music that you do, like once you start looking old, it's going to be harder for you. I was like,
wow. Wow.
I'm like, well, I don't choose to believe that, so
Right.
that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like Betty White, babe. But I know
Right.
it's like
There's so much
different.
judgment, right?
There's a lot. Well, and I was definitely doing it to myself. So when she said that, it totally triggered me, and I was like, fuck, like,
Yeah. It just, your inner voice got all inflamed with it.
yeah. But yeah, yeah. It's very, very interesting. And now, um, I don't know. It's like it's kind of almost like novel to be
Mhm.
like, the Betty White musician. Like I'm not quite at Betty White status, but I
You're
feel
not
like
at Betty White
I
status.
talk
Maybe one
about
day you
I
can
talk about a
aspire.
lot. Yeah, no, I do. She is like
You still
totally
look
one of my
so
heroes.
young and gorgeous and vibrant and all of these
Thank
things.
you.
And like, yeah. And I know that you're going to look amazing too as you start to have wrinkles and
Betty
your
White.
skin changes texture and all of that. But
Yeah, we got to work that shit.
yeah, it's again, there's this idea, like the whole Hollywood idea of eternal youthfulness that I think it's shifting as certain actors and actresses of a certain age are aging and
Yes.
shifting those ideals within the Hollywood world. But LA really does affect the entire world in some ways. Like it has such a long reach
Oh
and
yeah.
the psychology of people about that. Yeah. So artists are always going to have haters that like want to tell them how they should be doing their art, and people who are telling them how they should be making their music and what kind of music they should be playing and where they should be performing. How have you kept yourself emotionally healthy from that? Like, is there anything specific that you say in your head? I know, like, do you just like hold it and like deal, or is there anything that you say in your head or mind to
um
help keep you strong when people
I
are
mean,
trying to like hate on how you should be as a musician or person? What's your
that's a
way?
challenge. I mean, I do have a very strong yoga practice, and I feel like that
Mm,
like the breathing in
yeah,
itself, like the act of like when I feel something
yeah.
start to, because I at this point in time am gratefully very hypersensitive, and I can just feel it in my body, so I do focus on breathing into it. That's probably my best
Mm,
tool, but
breath.
I'd be lying if I said that stuff doesn't affect me.
Yeah,
It's gotten better, but I think the challenging thing is engaging on social media, but not looking so much that, not taking things personally, like,
yeah,
comments or whatever, things like that. I do love engagement in the sense of like people making song requests, and I love
yeah.
connecting with people like that. That feels really good to me. But I noticed a lot of, I don't even know if it's haters, but what I feel is a lot of judgment I get is from men who, what I'm projecting possibly, but they want to talk about their guitars. And and that was something that used to bother me a lot. And I would get very triggered, and I wouldn't argue, but I
Yeah.
would feel very triggered by it and get like, you know. But now I see like, this is probably a guy who wishes that he was out playing music with his guitar, and now he just like sees this girl doing this, and maybe I'm being a little too sexist, but this is how it feels to me. So maybe I'm just being sexist enough. I don't know. So
I mean,
whenever, anyways, so I guess I'm trying, like, as I mature, trying to, see like, okay, so why is this person saying this? Or sometimes I might just get really pissed off and dwell on it for 2 to 3 hours, Okay, sometimes I do both.
But you're still going forward. So how do you
Oh yeah.
do you think it's the breath work that allows you to stay strong?
Oh God.
Or is it
I feel like probably
is it
the
your
breath
mom's
work
voice in your head? Like, what is it that allows you to,
helps
because
a
you're
lot.
still going, or is it just the love of the music? Like, how do you, like, I think confidence is such a real issue when it comes to the arts, and
I have to tell
years
you
being
that,
told how crappy
oh my
we
God,
are.
confidence, like, I had a dream when I was in my 20s, and there was a voice that came in my dream, and the voice said, when you have confidence and self-control of your addictions, then you will be able to go to the next level of what you want to do with your music. And at the time, I was very, very depressed. I had just stopped a job that was making me feel very terrible. And I just was so desperate. It was that desperate place, And I thought about that dream over and over and over. So I guess it was kind of like a mantra. Because I mean, like, I guess like a lot of humans, it's like, I wouldn't say I struggle with addiction. I'm aware of the fact that I could very easily drink the whole bottle of tequila. I'm really good at that. If I, but now I guess at my age, I'm like, well, if I do that, I'm gonna feel like shit. So it's gonna wreck the whole tomorrow. So I'm probably not gonna do that very often. But the just doing it anyway, I think I would say that probably comes from my, like, I joke around that I grew up in an orphanage with my parents, because like growing up with 10 siblings and my parents, and like, honestly, I have no hatred for my dad, but he really didn't want kids, and my mom wanted 12 kids. She wanted a dozen, and he compromised on the 11. And so they had like 11 kids, and he just kind of was like checked out. And I think that it, like, in hindsight, I'm like grateful for that opportunity. For God, I sound so positive right now. I'm really not very much sadder, but I really do feel like that experience, and it's still my family can still trigger me and shit all the time, but like, when I'm away from it, I think like that is the shit that made me be able to keep showing up and keep going, because it's weird, because
like finding your voice inside of all of that, or like being able to maintain the internal compass with that dynamic going. Is that?
I like it. Honestly, last night when I was playing, I was at a bar last night in Wisconsin, and during a song, I just, like, all of a sudden, I just felt like I was this girl at the nursing home, and I was in that place of my mom saying, you will not be selfish, because I'm hormonal. I just started bleeding yesterday, and sometimes it can be really challenging when you just start bleeding to go out there and be like, here's my soul, and I just want to.
Right, because you're already vulnerable. It's like literally spirit is flowing through you, and you're releasing as a woman, and then now you're going to stand in this stage and be witnessed. You might feel bloated or stressed,
and
or whatever,
I was
tired
totally
and crampy,
bloated.
and you're like sharing.
Exactly. All those things. And so I did, like, I had this flash last night of like being this little girl. And I guess I just kind of just like noticed it. I just like saw myself like standing next to it. And I'm like, this is real. Whereas like my mom is very Pollyanna, and I love that about her, but sometimes that's bullshit, where I'm like, no, I'm fine, Right. And it's like, no, that's bullshit. So last night I'm like, I'm not fine. I might cry, and I was very happy to be singing, but at the same time, the vulnerability level was like off the charts. But I did stand next to it, and it was like, it was very powerful. I feel like I can't remember exactly the quote, but it's like, the depths of our sorrow is like, that's the depth that our joy can contain.
Yeah.
So I'm just like looking at, oh my God, I feel this like fucking, but then I feel like when I do get like that intensity level, I do recognize like, well, that's how much of like the,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that can
And
be.
that vulnerability, I think as a performer, like when I see performers that, it's like, oh my God, that's how I feel on the inside. And here's this person this way on the outside. And it speaks on this whole other level. And I think, Karen, that's something that I've always really appreciated about you, actually, is that
Mm.
you hold this sense of authenticity. Like, I feel like you've always been pretty real and blunt and true about just who you are, and at times that we've joked and you've said things like, you're weird. Like, you're like, I'm weird. And I'm like, I'm weird too. And there's this joy in like claiming these aspects of ourselves. Like, in the Celtic, like the weird sisters, WIRD, are like these wonderful fates, right? They're powerful beings, powerful goddesses that craft and create life. And it's their very weirdness. Like, what is weird about them? They're called weird sisters because they're sort of tuned into the other world. They're like in the world, but they're also tuned into the other. And it's the stuff that makes people a little bit uncomfortable because, it's beyond what is expected. Right. And
Right.
that's so powerful. So I've loved like that, just knowing you. There's this way that you feel very authentic about just being you, and the things that you just like, and the things that you do, you just do. And it feels very unapologetic in this liberated way. And it's like, yeah, you'll go through something and you're like, oh, I gotta go do some yoga. And then you do, though, right? It's not like just a virtue signaling thing. Like, I gotta go do some yoga because I'm stressed. And then you go watch TV and eat chips. Like you're
I
actually
still
then,
might eat chips.
you might still eat chips, but you're like stretching and eating chips and watching TV, and it's like you're real about what's there. So now it's very serious questions. Like you often have in your performances, and like the live performances you've done, and on Facebook sometimes, like you'll have just these wonderful clothes, like really colorful or creative sense of fashion. Do you consciously cultivate those pieces as part of an identity, like a brand identity, or are you really just being you? Like, how do you, because it's very authentic either way. So as a performer, like, do you think about those things? Is that part of how you feel you try to get success to happen? Or are you just kind of expressing who you are? Like, what is that? Because it's great, but
It's definitely a form of expression. I feel like I feel like it is definitely connected to my childhood and growing up the way that I did in the orphanage. I used to have I had this reoccurring dream of having a closet full of dresses, and it just made me feel so much joy. And I would just like walk in the closet and try on all these different colorful dresses. And I think that it definitely is like me taking pictures. I used to be more shy about taking pictures. I do feel like it is a form of an expression, and it's like I don't I want to say I wish I could. I don't consciously like think like this is my marketing strategy of this like style, but I just like it's like I just notice like when I'm like drawn to different pieces, and then holy shit, it's amazing how every fucking thing coordinates and matches my nails. Like what I did last night, I put my like hair, I put a flower in my hair with my fishnets and my nails, and it's like, yeah, I definitely think that is just like another like it's like an art form, like being dressed,
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
really like that's like so much fun for me. It's a bit much for my 12-year-old. Like I have this one outfit, actually more than one outfit, but there's one in particular that if we're going to go in public, he's like, I am sorry, I can't go out with you in public if you're going to
Yeah.
wear that. So if you could change, that'd be the best for me. Like, okay.
It's great that you guys have the
Respect.
honesty, right?
I know, like I appreciate that. I know I
Yeah.
kind of look like David Lee Roth, but
No. So,
very good.
do you have like a favorite clothing store or anything like that you tend to find yourself return to, or clothing source that you find yourself returning to again and again?
Yeah, I really love Sourpuss clothing. Like they have really
Oh, never heard
gaudy,
of
like
them.
really great like rockabilly dresses. And like
Fun.
I like that a lot. And there's a store that's like right in the downtown where I live that's actually like a vintage furniture store that has clothes
Mm,
there. And
mm.
like it's like the most, because it's like so random, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's like they'll have like a really good pair of cowboy boots or something for like
Yeah.
$40 and they're like so fabulous. But I'm like, there was God, what was aubergine that used to be in
Oh, that was
Sebastopol.
wonderful in
I
Sebastopol.
still have some like tutus from there that I
Yeah.
do like a single tear when I think of like just, not that I took it for granted, but it was like that place was really
I
special.
did. I took it for granted, but then when they were close to closing, I didn't take it for granted. But
Yeah.
many fond memories for anybody who remembers. This is the aubergine shout out, right? Like
Oh my God.
the fact
That
that
place
you could
was
go
cool.
vintage clothing shopping and sit outside and throw
Oh yeah.
darts at a board and hear amazing live music and
That
get
place was
pizza
awesome.
and play
Yeah.
pool and be warm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and one more gear question, because you did mention how some men like to talk about their guitars, the guitars they
Yeah.
strum.
Yeah.
What kind of guitar do you use? Like, do you have more than one, or is there one that you kind of just always use? Like, what is it?
Now, so um I was just gifted an amazing Martin guitar that it's hilarious that I, for years, this is like the cliche that guys are like, "Do you like Martins? I have a Martin." And it's just like, "Do you want to see my Martin?" I'm just like,
You're all,
"Okay,
I got a
buddy."
Martin of my own, thank you.
I know. But I did like, I was for a while, like, I'm very loyal. I'm a monogamous guitar player. So I
Mhm.
did for the longest time. I bought a guitar probably 25 years ago and I played that for years
Mhm.
until it started getting weird on me. And I'm a monogamous. I'm in a
Yeah.
monogamous relationship. I gave them names for a while. It was Rosa. She was an Alvarez, and then Rico was a breed love I got at Stan Roy Music in Santa Rosa.
Uh-huh.
But after Martin came, Rico's kind of just like
Yeah. Serial
sitting next to
monogamous, huh?
Rosa. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
totally.
probably more
I am.
polyamorous with my guitars, but I feel you.
Really?
So,
Oh,
yeah, so there's like, there's a lot to being able to continue to survive playing music in a world that does not always value what musicians are really bringing. And I
yeah.
think this is something that even energy healers are challenged by, right? That in the energy healing world, there are people who obviously know the value of energy healing, but there is still a struggle with understanding that that value can be connected to money, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
with that, you know, like in energy work, I like to tell people that if you're trying to become professional, the best thing you can actually do is just create consistency. And I
Yeah.
remember even in Los Angeles, like I had friends who were actors, actresses. I had my Z cards for a while and did some model like stuff. And I'm going to go to, we don't need to talk about Dailey the model, but, um, and even then I realized that there in Hollywood, LA, there were sort of two types. Like there was the person who was coming there to take. And then there was the person who was coming to give, to actually share value. So I like to talk about consistency and energy work and like really just understanding what it is that you want to offer the world. And I believe it's the same as an artist. When I worked in the art gallery
Mhm.
as a registrar and handled artists and helped artists, and we were cultivating their careers and acquisitions, the biggest thing that allowed those artists to be successful with their print art was consistency
Mhm.
in what they were crafting and putting out there, and with how frequently they were kind of launching or being really present. So I would
Yeah.
love to ask you, like, as an artist, as a musician, um, are there consistent things that you've been doing now? I know Facebook is one of them, but are there
For
consistent
sure.
things that you do that we may not even be thinking about, like certain phone calls or in networking? Like, what are the kind of consistent things that you're doing in order to continue to stay fairly fluid as an artist during COVID?
Definitely the social media thing. because yeah, as far as consistency goes, putting content out, and
Like how often? Like every day or?
every day, pretty much every day. But I
Mhm.
think it's okay to skip some days,
Mhm.
like, because then it's like you want to be authentic and like not have it be forced, but then at the same time sometimes you do have to just like, well, I got to pull my head out of my ass and get something going.
Yeah.
But that for sure. The God, I'm like losing my train of thought right now. I need a sip of water. We're talking about
Consistency.
we're
Like the
talking
inner
about
creative
consistency,
goes,
and I'm like,
no.
I can't focus anymore.
Don't be consistent.
No, I know. So I think that something that came to me is connecting with people, and so I'm very, very good at staying home. Very, very good.
Uh-huh.
And so that was something that was a struggle for me in wanting other people in the past to do the work for me of booking the things. And oh, my brain doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Like but
basically not doing the business side.
yeah, like I never wanted to do that shit. But no, I feel like just anything, like it's interesting how I think it's just about like showing up to life in general, because of the fact that I am so good at staying home. But when I started having more like actual dreams while I was sleeping and getting my spirit guides like nudging me, like, if you want to do this thing, you need to go actually do this thing. Because I think my brain, and I'm sure a lot of people, is like, if it's not perfect, then I can't let anybody see it. And that's a daily struggle for me. So that's total struggle for me. So that's why I don't record videos, watch them and put them out. That's why I just do live and just go, because otherwise I'm going to delete that shit and nobody can see because my hair's fucked up or whatever. So I think it really is about just like showing up and like saying yes, because and there's a lot of times where the thing with money is like, oh, well, I have to make, like, this is my baseline. If I don't get this much money, then I'm going to say no. But that's a tough one, because I think there's a lot of times where if I just say yes to things, and I know it's like, oh, it's for exposure. And I know that sounds like bullshit. I know, but I think that we can like trust ourselves to know when, hey, you know what, like, that's okay. So I think like it's a lot of like yesing. I think it's a lot of yesing.
Saying yes.
I know for
to
me,
life.
It's a lot of like, yes, exactly. Just like saying yes.
I really love that.
And maybe that means like, oh, your friend called you to go take a walk and you didn't feel like it. But then when you take a walk, then you met this person on the road, and then blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think it's about like trusting the flow, right?
Yeah. There's like like when you're speaking, what I hear is just this openness to what life wants to share with you. And that if you're really present to that, it's like, how much you want to be making as your minimum, that you're having this consistent value that you're offering, like you're doing lives with music now that COVID has happened. And before that you were performing pretty regularly out everywhere. And so offering the value and having that emanating from your energy field, and then just being willing to like say yes to whatever the world is throwing back at you, and feeling into the rightness of that is how you're actually moving forward. That's cool.
And I want to mention, this is a weird thing. Like when I first started doing the Facebook lives, it was like everybody's putting their Venmo and their PayPal, and that always felt weird to me. And I'm not saying that it's not okay, because it is okay, because I did make money from PayPal and Venmo.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason now, like, it doesn't feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, oh, here's my Venmo. I just feel like I'm just saying hi and I'm singing a song, and that's what feels right to me. For now, whereas in the past it felt differently. But like, I guess it's
well, then people come to know you as a musician, and then they're like, ooh, I wonder if she can play here or play there, or So one last question, and I know we probably have to wrap up, but I am curious about the whole Facebook piece, because the lives, I have also found that just people need to see you and need to know what you're about and what's happening. And I think that when you're trying to establish yourself as an artist, that can be something easy to forget. It's like the irony of wanting to be out on a big stage and also wanting to hide at the same time. So now that you have been doing lives fairly frequently and that you've been performing out in the world also and doing things the best you can there with COVID, when you're looking at those lives, are you noticing that you have any kind of following, or are there people that maybe you've never met in real life, like physical life, but they're like fans that are really there? Has there been a growth process with that, or like what is that like?
Yeah,
Or is
it's like, it's weird. I'm like, oh my God, people like me. Like, and then I'm like, wait, is that weird? Yeah, it's like a weird, like sometimes I'll go back and it's like, okay. I do appreciate the, like when people reach out. I think sometimes, like someone said to me at the bar we were playing at, she had sent me a message and asked me about a song. Did I know it? And I learned the song and I played it last night and she really loved it and it felt amazing. And then she shared with me how she felt like shy to like reach out to me, like, oh, is like, do you think I'm weird, or and then like we both could see like, hey, I'm glad you reached out, and hey, and it was like, so that had nothing to do with what you were saying, really, maybe not directly, but
no, it does. It's like this. It's a relationship being built that's actually very authentic and very heartfelt, even though you haven't seen each other face to face in the moment. Yeah.
And it's weird too, because like sometimes I'm like, look at my ass and my dress, or whatever. But I'm like, what else am I supposed to do with this thing? I'm a mom of 3. Aren't you guys proud of me? Come on. Whatever.
It's the authenticity. You're just being you.
Yeah. So sometimes, my mom's still getting involved and she's like, maybe, I should think about some of those pictures aren't the best choices.
Let the musician be.
I know. So you know what? That's a process as far as like putting content out there. That's a process where I do still sometimes run stuff by people like, hey, do you think this is too much?
Right.
And I really like to surround myself with people who say it's never too much. Okay, good.
Right.
But yeah.
This is
no,
awesome.
That's really cool. Like the Facebook thing has been really, I'm super grateful for it. I don't know. It's like, I should do more YouTube. I should tweet. I know. And Instagram is out there, but like Instagram's different because like if you go back and watch live, you can't go back and watch lives like you can on Facebook. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're totally different mediums. Like that's a whole nother convo we could totally have one day. It's awesome to me. So if you had any, I want to thank you for being here today and sharing these pieces. And
thank you.
Yeah. And if you had any like sort of words of experience or wisdom for other musicians in this group who really do love their music and would like to be much more forthcoming. I know there's a lot out there about like, oh, make a demo this way, or, get the booking agent that way, and blah, 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 blah. Like there's a lot of music industry stuff. But if you just kind of parse through that and in your heart, like, are there any words of wisdom that you would specifically give to somebody who's thinking about really stepping out on a creative limb for themselves?
Mm-hmm. I would say to just don't give up, even though that sounds cliche, because there's going to be a lot of people saying no over and over again in the beginning. I think maybe they won't say no at all, but I guess like the one word that comes to mind is relentless, because that was the thing that I had to learn, was to have people say no to me and have me feel like, oh my God, they don't like me because I have to put myself out here like a product. So being relentless, I would say, because like it's if it's like doing sales or something, like whatever the art medium is, to try and get gigs, being relentless, just like getting out there over and over again, and not giving up, because like we can all be like Betty White.
Betty.
I know. And also, I mean, there are definitely like booking agents, and like I do use a couple of booking agents, but also just like connecting with people and being friendly and talking to people, which is weird for me to say out loud, as like I consider myself an extroverted introvert. So I'm like, connect with people, which is like A little bit of tequila does help for that though.
Yeah, I really do think of you as an introvert, actually.
I
Yeah,
so
you really
am.
are.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
so you can have you have a personality. You can definitely get up on a stage, but your core persona, you actually are pretty introverted. So it's
Oh my
interesting to
gosh,
hear
yeah.
that. Like the networking piece is really important.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, it is, and it's terrifying. So I'm like, when I think about like what we were given in our lifetime is like, here are your lessons, and here's your skills, and here's what you got to work with. Go have fun with that. And I'm just like,
You're like, why?
no, it's fine.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so
Thank you
much.
so
Yeah, I'm
much.
like, I
It's
could
been
ramble about that
lovely.
forever. I
We could
love
talk
you.
forever. We'll probably get on and talk. So just to remind people, Karen is going to be performing in the group for a miniature live holiday concert on Tuesday at 9:30. And I want to thank you, Karen, for that even now in advance, and for sitting with us and
Yeah,
letting us have a talk with
absolutely.
the musician, a talk with the artist. This has
It was a
been
pleasure.
fantastic. And I definitely look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Me too.
Thank you.